Our next guest fled China during Mao's Cultural Revolution, and she believes that America is threatened by the same Marxist forces that propelled the communist takeover of her homeland. Joining us now is Xi Van Fleet, survivor of Mao's Cultural Revolution and author of Mao's America. So Xi, what's your warning tonight to the United States?
The warning is a war has been waged to America, and that is the Cultural Revolution, a cultural revolution that I experienced in China that's destroyed China, and it is taking place right here in America.
Explain how the use of propaganda, starting in the schools and then being promoted by government organs and other government officials, works on the young minds especially.
Yes, that's the indoctrination in school. I grew up in China, in Mao's China, and went through the government school indoctrination. And we were taught the world is made of two kinds of people, the oppressors and the oppressed. And by now, Americans are very familiar with this concept. The oppressed are the virtuous people, and the oppressor are the evil ones. So there's no thinking involved. All you need to do is decide who is who. And if this is the oppressor, you need to resist it. You need to do anything necessary to eradicate it. That's what happened during the Cultural Revolution when the Red Guards turned against the teachers, turned against the principals, and turned against their parents because they are condemned as the enemy, the oppressors. And this is the same thing that we see on the American streets right now, the pro-Hamas protesters, and we see them on campus. And we see the same thing, and which is astonishing, that now the people are targeting Jewish students just because they are now categorized as the oppressors. Same toxic ideology.
Gee, I want to also, I'm sorry to interrupt. I also want to ask you about how the government, the regime, has to separate parents from their children and turn a child against parent, the social credit system, but also that this idea of tattling on your neighbors and informing on your neighbors. I remember in the Soviet Union, which I studied in many years ago when it was still communist, and that was a big deal. Tell on your neighbor and you get something for it. We saw that during the BLM riots when some of the kids were telling on their parents and they weren't anti-racist enough.
That's exactly what the indoctrination do, and it then turned everything into something like ideology-based. And if your parents said something during the Cultural Revolution against the party, you report your parents. Some parents end up being executed. Here we're doing the same thing. And we encourage, the government even encouraged, Biden even encouraged people to report family members that have extreme views. And what is extreme view? That's determined by the government. What is acceptable, what is not. And when people hold the view you don't like, they're enemies, they're extremists. And that's what we see. This toxic ideology ferment hatred.
And Xi, the need to destroy religion and traditions and history, that's all wrapped up in this, right? With monuments, with books, with, they're banning, books in schools such as Huck Finn and all these classic American books. But that has to go as well, correct, in this type of revolution?
That is called the Cultural Revolution. You get rid of anything that is traditional, anything that is old. And in China, that's the Chinese civilization to be replaced by Maoism. And here, the radical left is trying to get rid of the American founding principles to replace with Marxist ideology, simplified as DEI.
Xi, I could talk to you for hours, and I'm sure I'm going to have you on the podcast. Great to see you. Thank you so much.